Jack here, JBF Music and Guitar Lessons, back with some musings for you here. Specifically, why Randy Rhoads' legacy will probably be a lot shorter lived than it deserves to be. Alright, so for my signature licks videos, I'll link to Randy's one with a little eye up there. I like to take some time and just go through various performances of an artist, listing out for reoccurring trademark licks, concepts, ideas and tricks, you know, that sort of thing. With YouTube, this is usually a blast, a lot of fun and really easy to find a ton of options. If anything, there's almost too much choice, but I'm really not complaining about that. I started filming sort of critiques of these videos, adding in some practical applications of the stuff I talk about. You can check out the playlist with the eye up there. Anyway, as regular viewers will know, and if you're not yet, feel free to do the subscribe notifications thing, leave a like, comment, you know the drill by now, I'm sure. I ran a poll over a series of months to try and work out which players you guys would be most interested in seeing content based on. Mr. Rhoads came in the top 4, so when I went to look for clips of him playing live, I ran into a bit of an issue. Now, I use studio recordings and isolated tracks where I can find them, but the live versions of solos and improvisations make it way easier to see the positions, you know where they're playing it, and just get a better feel for their idiosyncrasies. And while there is sort of an isolated guitar track for Crazy Train, with his guitar being doubled, one on the left and one on the right, a handful of live clips, I really struggled to find the same wealth of content most players, including many below his levels of fame and notoriety, usually have. From my point of view, we've got 3 main possibilities. 1, not that many people like him, so there's not much footage. Which, I mean, it sounds so unlikely to be true, it's really not worth entertaining. You know, with Crazy Train ranking as the 9th greatest guitar solo ever by readers of Guitar World magazine, so not just the people that put the magazine together, the people that read it, the actual guitar players. That is just one small argument to quash this theory. 2, people like him, but they never bother to film anything or upload it. Considering how many obscure videos there are on here, again, that just seems really unlikely. Or 3, it's a copyright issue. I'm putting my money on that last one. I've only got anecdotal reasons as to why, so please do correct me if you know better. Sorry, I've just realised this is spiralling into a bit of a video essay. No real intention of doing more of these, but let me know what you think, good or bad. Any constructive points are usually pretty useful. But getting back on track, the Osbourne estate is notoriously bad for taking recognition away from the session musicians who wrote and performed Ozzy's music, hiding or removing their writing credits. Case in point, Randy Rhoads, bassist Bob Daisley and drummer Lee Kerslake recorded and released 2 albums, Blizzard of Oz, September 20th, 1980, and Diary of a Madman, November 1981. Daisley and Kerslake were quite unexpectedly fired by Sharon Osbourne after the recording of Diary of a Madman was completed. Bassist Rudy Sarzo and drummer Tommy Aldridge, both great players as well, were credited in the liner notes and also pictured on the inner sleeve, making people think it was them that recorded it. However, it was Daisley and Kerslake who performed all the bass guitar and drums on the original release. Jump forward to 1986, Daisley and Kerslake successfully sued the Osbournes for unpaid royalties, eventually winning, being granted their songwriting credits for Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman. But that's not where it ends, there's a little bit of drama just to go on top of things. In 2002, there was a reissue for these albums, which used the parts that Daisley and Kerslake wrote, but what happened here is the original drum and bass parts were removed and then re-recorded. The new parts being played by Ozzy Osbourne's drummer at the time, Mike Borden, I think of Faith No More, and bassist Robert Trujillo, who most of us probably know from Metallica. So to clear that up, they re-recorded it using the same parts, but got different musicians in to record the parts. Now, a cynical person would say they've done this to spite them, because this means while they have to pay legally the songwriting credits, they no longer have to pay them the royalties for having performed the actual song. Okay, 2 things here. Firstly, Sharon gets blamed for all this type of stuff, which may very well be true, but I don't know one way or the other, so I'm not going to cast the finger of blame onto any one specific person. Again, if you can shine some light on this matter, then please do. Hang on, if the drums were redone and the bass was redone but the guitar stayed the same, surely that just goes in the face of everything I've just been saying. They kept Randy's parts, they kept the others as well, but they had them redone. Doesn't this show favouritism towards Randy and indeed his legacy? It's an argument for sure, but not a very robust one. Otherwise, I would have certainly found a ton of live clips of Randy playing. Now, while I'm sure you could find them through more nefarious means, YouTube is pretty much a first port of call for most people. It's the 2nd most visited website, according to Alexa Internet, the web traffic analysis company. Why did that sound like a really awkward sponsor instead of just a reference? To me, what we've got here is a pattern of revisionist history of sorts. I can think of 3 reasons why you'd want to take down or not allow your content online. 1, you want to get paid for streams of your work. fair enough, but it probably will come at the price of legacy. What do I mean by this? Less people can find your songs, they're less accessible, less people are going to listen to them. Particularly younger generations, you're really limiting their chance of finding and discovering this music. 2. The Osbourne estate wants to control the content, so they could potentially release a Randy Rhoads best of or unheard archives type thing, make some money off it that way. 3. The live performances might not be up to par, or at least the standard that they want them to be. Now, I can only speculate. I would guess it's a mix of these reasons. The third one in particular stands out to me because I'm pretty sure this has already happened. There are a few songs from Ozzy's live TV set from Rochester, New York in 1981. If you've looked for Randy clips, you've probably seen them. These are the kind of higher quality ones. Mr. Crowley and I Don't Know seem to have survived, but Crazy Train, which you could have found quite a few years back, has been purged. What makes this even more interesting to me is that the first time I saw that video, they were talking quite a few years ago now, probably 10 or so, Ozzy bunged the last line leading into the solo, you know that you've got to listen to my words. His voice cracked on words and he looks to the side, clearly annoyed at himself. Now, I'm not having a go at all here, it's live, you'll mess up, par for the course. But when I watched that video maybe a year or two ago, when it was still online, the part had been edited out, as had his facial reaction. Now, there is a chance here I could be totally misremembering this, but I'm about as certain as I could be that this is an accurate statement. Again, any additional information, confirmation or otherwise, would be great here. Considering how notorious Ozzy was for drug use and being pretty out of it, I don't think it's too much of a stretch to hypothesize that a lot of his gigs with Randy might have been pretty ropey. The thing is, I don't think any of us would even care. Ozzy is one of those guys who's truly transcended being just a musician or singer to an almost mythical status. You don't see Ozzy to hear a pitch perfect rendition of the record, you go to experience him. You go to see him do that clapping thing he does, or what weird, wonderful crowd banter he might unleash upon you, stumbling and walking about the stage in that sort of oddly charismatic, unique way that he does. In short, you go for the aura of the original, proposed by Walter Benjamin, explaining that even the most perfect reproduction of art is lacking one element, its presence in time and space, its unique existence in that place where it happens to be. In layman's terms, a reproduction is not as good as the real thing. Now, we can't see Randy live again, that opportunity is long since gone. What we've got are live clips, and that's as good as we're getting, except we don't have many of those either. Whether this is purely for financial or monetary reasons to shine the light more firmly on Ozzy, perhaps diminishing Randy's role, hiding sloppy gigs, or some other reason that I've not even thought of, the end result is that it's way harder to introduce someone to Randy's playing than it ought to be. The only realistic outcome I can see happening here is that his legacy is much shorter lived than it deserves to be. So as a side note of sorts, most of these critique videos get claimed by the owner because you're using a lot of their work even though it counts as review or fair use. It's YouTube, you just have to deal with it. So I'm really not sour about not making bang here, not making revenue from being able to do like a Guitar Tutor critiques Randy Rhoads video. It doesn't really happen with this series. So I'm not just salty about not being able to make some bang here. It doesn't really happen to these series of videos, I'm afraid. It just really seemed like such a shame, a real waste. Sadly, realistically, I don't think there's anything we can do about this. All I'd say is if you have these videos in your own private collection, keep them safe, back them up. Hopefully sometime they'll see the light of day. Anyway, a real departure from my usual sort of stuff, but I felt oddly compelled to make this. I was just going through Randy's licks and tricks and his ideas, and it just felt so wrong that there wasn't the same library that so many other players have, just documenting how great they are. But yeah, let me know if you want more of this kind of thing, or indeed less. If you're still here and you haven't done the old subscribe thing, that's always much appreciated, but yeah, take it easy guys. Have a good